turn back before it's too late.
Watching Senua emerge from a shipwreck onto the shoreline bruised, bloodied, and struggling to breathe immediately drags us back into the depths of desperation and despair of Senua's saga Hellblade 2's psychosis-affected lead from the outset. What follows is a supremely taut 6-hour tour across the human realm of Midgard that's conveyed through staggeringly vivid action sequences, stunning Nordic-inspired locations, and intense encounters with towering terrors intimidating enough to make a Viking mess their furs. Hellblade 2 serves up another satisfyingly brutal and consistently enthralling heroine's journey, even if its streamlined sword fighting favours cinematic spectacle over substantial gameplay depth. Although it's been some 7 years since Hellblade Senua's sacrifice, the events of Hellblade 2 take place shortly after the original's vengeful highway to Helheim, with Hell's Bell now feeling empowered by her psychosis rather than encumbered with it. However, after the Icelandic slave ship she stows away on is wrecked during a severe storm, Survivor's guilt sees her prior struggles with self-doubt re-emerge to clash with her own stoic sense of justice, setting her down another gripping and tortured path towards battling both her own inner demons and the bloodthirsty monsters roaming Midgard as they take human and mythical forms.
Why did you come back?
Senua is joined along the way by a handful of human companions, including a shackled slave master who begrudgingly accompanies her on her path, and a settler she saves from a sacrificial altar.
What is your name?
Senua.
I've been waiting for you.
Do it.
None of these supporting characters are given enough screen time to really develop much of a personality beyond the surface, but I appreciated having them along for various parts of the quest, since their incidental conversation felt like a far more organic method to process exposition than the superimposed live-action vignettes of the first game.
I wish you had drowned like the others. Just wait till I get free.
It's the battle-scarred Senua herself who is the star though, portrayed to stirring effect by Melina Jurgens, returning from the still gorgeous original game now in near photorealistic form. Jurgens is a truly courageous and compassionate presence, and I completely bought into her determination to battle through the fear and self-loathing, from moments where she's paralysed by anxiety through to shocking outward bursts of blood-boiling rage. Hellblade 2 once again takes Senua to some dark and disturbing places, but the sequel's environments have been painted from a broader colour palette than the mostly bleak backdrops of the original. Sure, you're still forced to hold your breath during crawls through heinous pits of blood and gristle, and infiltrate marauder camps decorated with gruesome bouquets made out of human bones, but these darker moments are contrasted with picturesque mountain treks beneath beautiful coral-coloured skies, and jaw-dropping glimpses of Aurora Borealis so vivid you can almost smell the steamed hams cooking in Principal Skinner's kitchen.
Good Lord, what is happening in there? Aurora Borealis?
The impressive lighting and fog effects employed throughout bring added depth to each destination, making for a journey that feels grounded even as it shifts between reality and the haunting altered states that spill out of Senua's psyche. The trade-off is that Hellblade 2 runs capped at 30 frames per second on Xbox Series X, but I felt that its visual design was jaw-dropping enough to justify that limit. These immaculate visuals are once again reinforced by first-class binaural audio design, and playing with headphones on is an absolute must in order to really appreciate the detailed environmental touches, like flies buzzing around mutilated corpses and drops of water echoing in underground caverns. More importantly, the swirling voices in Senua's head seem so close you can almost feel their breath on the back of your neck.
You need to climb again. She will fall if she does.
This time around, not only do these disembodied backseat drivers serve as the bickering angel and devil on Senua's shoulders, casting confusion over every decision she makes,
Why didn't you stop it too weak?
but they also cleverly sow suspicion about the supporting characters around her,
You have to keep your eyes on me.
making it tough to know who to trust along the way to the story's thoroughly cathartic conclusion.
I will not appease your gods. I will destroy them.
What are you going to do with that sword, bro?
Looks ready for you. He's ready to fight.
Whereas much of Senua's war in the original Hellblade was waged against demonic manifestations of the Northmen who raided her village and murdered her lover, in Hellblade 2 the majority of her foes are flesh and bone human warriors. This means that every attack you land feels all the more brutal, with Senua's sword splitting surface wounds in her opponent's skin that continue to bleed for the duration of battle, and enemy encounters that can be brought to a savagely abrupt end by jamming Senua's blade so far down their Nordic necks that they'd need to perform a Hellheimlich maneuver to cough it back up again. The combat camera is so tight on each conflict that every weighted blow lands with concussive force, and I was acutely aware of Senua's knees buckling underneath her as I blocked an incoming series of powerful slashes. Dodging feels far more physical too, lurching you out of harm's way but leaving you open to a follow-up attack in the brief moment it takes Senua to regain her footing, if you don't manage to time it just right. Timing is also now more key to performing successful parries relative to the original, and the window in which to do so has been shortened to the point where I wasn't able to just calmly deflect each and every enemy assault with Jedi-like consistency anymore. That made each fight feel a little less of a foregone conclusion. That said, while I remain consistently engaged in each ferocious and remarkably fluid fight to the death, I do wish the team at Ninja Theory had done a little more to build upon the fairly modest combat template established in the original Hellblade with what they've served up here. Admittedly, Hellblade 2's swift 6-hour runtime leaves little room to cram in a skill tree to flesh out or additional attack combos to unlock, but it does feel a touch familiar to play through another campaign with the same basic 2-button mix of light and heavy sword slashes, as superbly animated as they may be. If anything, Hellblade 2's fighting feels even further streamlined than the original, where Senua also has a guard-breaking melee attack. That's been dropped entirely with nothing to replace it. Meanwhile, her slow-motion focus ability, which was unlocked midway through the first game, is made available in this sequel virtually from the outset, with no further attack-altering abilities to be found for the remainder of the story. Hellblade 2's combat encounters are consistently menacing and muscular as new enemy types like flame-spitting cultists and nimble ghouls are introduced, but without any additional charged attacks or alternative weapons to wield, my basic methods for overcoming each marauding mob remained mostly unchanged from start to finish. One combat change that I did appreciate, however, is the way Hellblade 2 limits each duel to one-on-one encounters. With no HUD to indicate incoming attacks and the whispers of warning from the voices in Senua's head easily missed during the heat of battle, in the original Hellblade I often found myself getting stabbed in the back by an unseen off-screen assailant whenever I found myself outnumbered. Thankfully, that's no longer an issue here. And the way Hellblade 2's energetic direction brings new opponents seamlessly barreling into frame the second another foe is violently dispatched, successfully sells the illusion that Senua is stuck amidst a proper rough-and-tumble free-for-all, rather than the carefully choreographed turn-taking brawls of a Bruce Lee movie.
What are they made of? So strong.
Speaking of direction, there are some exceptionally well-executed sequences that revolve around murderous giants, who have crossed over into Midgard from another realm and are hoovering up sacrificed slaves like they're human-shaped snack bars. These encounters are urgent, desperate scenarios that put Senua through rigorous physical trials, and although they don't ever actually put her in head-to-head conflict with one of the man-hungry monoliths, they still deliver some blood-pumping story peaks to Senua's Saga that fill the void left by the absence of any traditional boss battles. Hellblade 2 isn't all life and death fighting though, and as was the case with the original game, there's an equal amount of environmental puzzles to tease your brain, as there are combat challenges to test your reflexes. At regular junctions, the path forward will be blocked by a swirling kaleidoscopic gate made out of fractalized body parts, and the only way to progress past it is by carefully lining up elements of the environment around you and resolving them into the shape of a specific symbol. I was a big fan of these perspective-based puzzles in the original Hellblade, and was happy to see them return here.
The signs are here.
In addition to a bit of Midgard magic eye, Hellblade 2 sprinkles in the use of torchlit braziers and bubble switches that each transform the terrain around you and open up new paths towards your goal. They're effectively new spins on the landscape-altering portals from the previous adventure, and although they might not be quite as brain-bending to behold, they're still just as satisfying to solve. None of these environmental riddles are particularly taxing though, and for the most part Hellblade 2's puzzles have been seemingly designed to momentarily stall Senua's forward march rather than ever truly stump you. But there are still some standout sequences. One mid-game stretch that involved sharing Senua's puzzle-solving torch with an unnamed spectral assistant on the opposing side of the arena was particularly inventive and felt like something straight out of the PlayStation 2 classic Eco.
Yes, there, above.
Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 delivers a spellbinding adventure packed with cinematic spectacle and story surprises that maintains a surging sense of forward momentum and never wastes a second of its slender runtime. Its combat manages to feel consistently intimidating and immediate despite its mechanical simplicity, and its perspective-based puzzles regularly scratch cerebral itches even though they largely rehash or rework concepts from Senua's previous story. A journey as brutal as it is beautiful, delivered with hardware-pushing visuals and persistently immersive audio, Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 is another Viking-worthy feast for the senses that meets the high bar set by its predecessor, even if it never really manages to clear it. For more IGN reviews, check out our verdicts on Animal Well and Little Kitty Big City, and for everything else, stick with IGN.
rápido